spending cuts up in Washington, D.C. And it's not that hard to do. In my first 90 days, I was able to find 3 wasteful programs in the Department of Defense that resulted in $800 million of savings to American taxpayer over the next 10 years. If every single member up there did the exact same thing in whatever agency they have oversight of, think what would happen with the debt, what would happen to the deficit, what would happen with spending in Washington, D.C. That's what we have to be able to do. You know, we don't have a budget. We are looking at 855 days that the United States of America has not operated with a budget. Can you run your household that way? Can you run your business that way? But nothing has come out of the Senate as far as a budget. You know, things have been passed from the House, jobs bills have been passed from the House, and they're going, and they're sitting at the Senate. No one can run any of their organizations or their households like we run the federal government right now. Number 4. That's where we've had 2 to 300 billion dollars of those wasteful programs came out in the GAO report that was published February, March of this year, and nothing has been done. That's a great place to start. Reform our regulatory system. In the month of July, about 600 new regulations were sent down from the federal government. 600 new regulations that will cost businesses upwards to about $10 billion of compliance. If we continue in this fashion, we're going to preclude our businesses from being able to grow. Things such as the EPA numeric nutrient criteria, which says that farmers and municipalities have to have runoff water that is parts per billion purer than rainwater, or else they will be fined. Those are the type of things that are coming out of Washington, D.C. that are frustrating a lot of our businesses.
That's the EPA, man. We need that.
This is a symbol of the inaction that we've had here recently. These are the bills that have passed over the House, but yet you can see nothing is getting through to the Senate. That's kind of the reason why when folks say you ought to run for the Senate, I say I'd rather go up there and do some work than sit over there in the Senate. But I don't know what these guys are. Here's a flow chart. Back in February, the President proposed his 2012 budget. It failed in the Senate, 0 to 97. House of Representatives passed the budget, the Ryan plan. It went over to the Senate. It sat there. The House of Representatives, there are 12 appropriations bills that have to be passed in order for the federal government to continue to operate itself. So far in the House, we've only passed 6 of those. We're halfway working through the interior bill, which is something we have to take up when we get back. But the Senate only passed 1 of those appropriations bills. So what's going to happen when we get back up there on 7th of September? We're not going to be able to finish those other 6 bills in the House. They definitely are not going to be completed over in the Senate. So 2 words you're going to hear. You're going to hear continuing resolution, or you're going to hear omnibus. And that's why Congress has a 14% approval rating. Because we know what we're supposed to do, but yet we're failing in doing it. And I grew up in an organization called the United States Military, which basically said you don't go home until the mission's accomplished. But that's not how we operate in Washington, D.C. But that is what you're going to hear sometime at the end of September, because we will not be able to do the business setting forth a budget for this country. Now, am I optimistic about it? Yes, I am. Because when I stand here in front of your faces, I see Americans. And I know that anytime Americans get pushed up into a corner, we finally figure it out. As a matter of fact, Sir Winston Churchill once said, Americans will eventually do the right thing after they have tried everything else. And that's why he is the only person that is not an American that we named a Navy war vessel after. But he's absolutely right. So this is why I see this battlefield. We've had several different big fights going on this battlefield. But if any of you have ever read the book, Killer Angels by Michael Shaw, or if you ever saw the film Gettysburg, you can understand what I'm talking about here. Now's the time when we're trying to fight a holding action. When J. L. Buford showed up at Gettysburg, he knew he could not defeat the entire army of Northern Virginia. But he knew if he could just hold this piece of high ground, and he could delay and find time for the Army of the Potomac to link back up with them, then they could possibly defeat the Army of Northern Virginia, which to that point, in July of 1863, had never lost a battle. And in those 3 days at Gettysburg, thanks to a man such as Joshua Lawrence Chambers of the 20th Maine Regiment, who held that far right flank, they were able to defeat the Army of Northern Virginia because of a foolish attack from this Confederate general, George Pickett. He charged across an open field and, of course, lost 15,000 men in one day. This is how we have to stand and be able to fight this thing incrementally. Like I said, we're not going to turn around 30 years of fiscally irresponsible programs in 8 months. If we can hold on, we can fight this action, and if you all can once again ask yourselves, what made America great? In that ballot that is coming in November 2012, America will rediscover itself, and we will set the course for a new and brighter future for this great nation. And that's what I believe will happen. It's going to be tough till we get to next November, absolutely right. But you got to believe and trust in the principles and the values that have made this country great. And that's what I stand for. All right, let's talk about my trip over to Israel.